Welcome back to the Restitute or Orbis channel. Now I'm going to be honest with everybody. I was looking to take a day off from doing a video, but after receiving some very warm, heartfelt comments on yesterday's video, I thought that when someone suggested that I was releasing too much content, that I owed it all to you, my loyal viewers, to do a bonus video for Thursday. So here's the bonus video, and we're going to be exploring ghost cities or planned cities, and what meaning could they potentially have for this research that we're doing. So what exactly are ghost cities? Well, let's take a look at US-China today and see what they can tell us about it. Cities lost in limbo. Are China's ghost cities here to stay? China's record number of vacant houses and urban projects, sitting at over 50 million units and growing, are an increasingly worrying domestic challenge. Known as ghost cities, these developments have created a housing bubble, representative of decades of Chinese progress, but also turmoil. What else would it be? You can't have progress without turmoil, and vice versa, right? The phrase ghost city might imply a city once full of life and now abandoned, but China's ghost cities are brand new, and their high rises never populated. Many had remained that way for years, byproducts of rapid economic growth that continue to plague the nation's urban planning strategy. Oh, nation's urban planning strategy. Interesting. Today, this abnormal trend should be re examined in the context of a nation turned upside down by a global pandemic. The saw population migrations and a change in the way people live and work in cities. As the world continues to create its post pandemic normalcy, urban planning and land development are key considerations. China's ghost cities did not experience significant pandemic driven influxes in demand, but they are beyond saving. In fact, concepts like social distancing, work from home, and new green initiatives may very well help to drive the next generation of China's urban transformation framework. Whether the spell's success for the existing ghost cities is unknown, but at the very least, we can definitely expect to see unprecedented shifts in China's ever growing urban landscape. It sounds so dire. Well, here's what we're really looking for. What is a ghost city? Ghost cities come in many shapes and sizes. While information about them is scarce, of course it is, studies have identified some 50 municipalities of varying sizes, often labeled as development areas, new areas, or eco cities. There's that term. I guess that doesn't mean engine cutoff. They are often located on the outskirts of second and third tier Chinese cities. Most are fully completed, but some were suspended mid construction. Miniature replicas of London, Paris, and European villages have low residency rates, making them perfect venues for wedding photo shoots or film sets. Why on earth would they make miniature replicas of London, Paris, and European villages? I mean, I know Solvang's a pretty little town in California and it attracts a lot of people for its references to classic European villages. But why on earth would you see this in China? Very interesting. The term ghost city was first used by photographers and journalists documenting the Kangbashi district. Located in Ordos, Inner Mongolia, Kangbashi is one of the largest and most well known ghost cities, originally designed to accommodate over 1 million residents. The urban mega project only housed around 20,000 people. Came up a little short of that 1 million, huh? When it gained international attention around 2009, when journalists flocked to Kangbashi to document its impressive but empty landmarks and buildings. In the years since, the world has directed more attention to these intriguing urban mega projects, but data from local Chinese governments remains scarce. Why on earth would that be? What we know is that apartments erected in ghost cities are rapidly purchased by homeowners who have no intention of moving in, and prices steadily increase. The result is a massive and worrying property bubble. Really? In the face of China's never ending urbanization spree, why are there still so many underpopulated cities? Will China's new initiatives focus on pandemic recovery and environmental sustainability finally challenge the standards of urban planning and shine a light of hope on the future of these cities? What does the future of urban planning look like for China? It's a very good question. According to Max Woodworth, an expert on Chinese urban development, understanding ghost cities requires knowledge of two main factors: the reason houses were built and the reason people buy them. Sounds like Real Estate 101. Let's see what he has to say. Most new urban projects are commissioned by local governments. Officials typically spend anywhere from 2 to 5 years in a regional position before being transferred to Beijing. To improve their track record, local officials often fight to demonstrate concrete economic growth and local development during their term. And here's where we have the money shot right here. Deciding to build a new town is just one simple way to demonstrate results, Woodworth says. Officials have a strong incentive to construct new cities, as they indicate economic progress in a clear and measurable way. In the late 20th century, many local governments had abundant land that they could lease out to developers to boost economic activity, which kick-started the city building trend. Let me get this straight. They're saying that if you want to show that you're successful and you want to work your way up the very well known, or at least reputedly, bureaucratic Chinese government, then you're just going to build a city to show economic progress, regardless of whether it's needed or not. This is very intriguing. And we're to believe that local officials on their own initiative do this? So we go back to the photos that we have of Paris, France, an empty city that we had looked at before in a previous video on this channel. And of course, we know there could be many reasons for why we have empty streets from the 19th century in Paris, France. Could have simply been early morning hours and nobody was out and about, or maybe they were told that there was some sort of strange green gas that was floating around that was going to turn their bodies inside out if it touched them. Remember that episode of The Simpsons? It was one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes. In any event, we do have these pictures, and they're a little bit strange because do they show an empty or abandoned city, or do they simply show a city that has no signs of life and no activity, of which there could be numerous explanations for? Not sure, but why would anybody go to all the trouble of going to Paris, France, and not take pictures of the population? Well, maybe they just wanted to get some pictures of the great buildings. Why would they want that? Well, we'll stop asking questions. And here we go to one of our cities in China. And this is the one that obviously has the Eiffel Tower. How fitting, just like Paris. I wonder if anybody in France would feel offended by this, that China's simply ripping them off. Well, I guess they've got the Eiffel Tower that's in Las Vegas, and nobody feels offended by that, do they? I mean, it's just Las Vegas. Pretty decent replica, I've got to say. Although none of the rest of the city remotely resembles Paris, it's intriguing that they put the Eiffel Tower at the center here. And they're looking for some sort of draw to it. I don't know, do a lot of people in China have dreams of wanting to live in a city that resembles Paris, or do they just think it's really cool to have an Eiffel Tower there? I mean, we can see that this thing is pretty large. It's just strange. What do you think in the comments? What's the reason for this? Does anybody live in China? Is anyone affiliated with someone who's involved with this development project, or one of these so-called local officials that we're told about in the article who just decides to take this kind of initiative? And apparently they can. So I don't know. Could the article be wrong? Everywhere we look, we see these lines of buildings that just go on and on and on. All this residential housing. The article makes it clear that these cities do exist, and yet they are not remotely close to being populated. 20,000 for a city of 1 million? 50 municipalities? And it's nothing to sneeze at, and of course we're told that the population of China being well over 1 billion for many years now. Does this have some other purpose, though? And that's the question we have to ask. These planned cities that they just build, as though they've really gone with the whole mantra, if you build it, they will come. Yeah, I know, it was he will come. Look at this, just all these high-rises, all this office space, all these residential areas, all this commercial space. And the article did acknowledge the fact that government is spending a lot of money just to keep these places operational. What is really going on here, though? Why would they do this? And why would they commit these expenditures if they don't have a reason to? When we look at the development of many cities in our history, and we always know there was a reason to build a building. Or at least the reasons that we're told. Many of the naysayers will tell us that in the 19th century you had these robber barons, and they wanted to build these elaborate buildings, and this was how they showed off their wealth, their status, and their power. Okay. And yet we have an article that's telling us this is done for the same reason. That these cities are built just so a local official can show off their economic development prowess. It's eerie how there seems to be a lot of similarities and parallels in these accounts. What is truly going on? Is there some more sinister purpose behind these planned cities, or these ghost cities as they're called? I don't think I've ever heard any accounts of any of these unused cities ever being torn down. So all these buildings and all of this structure and infrastructure is still there, unoccupied, just sitting there. And the more of these images you see, the more eerie that this becomes. I'm reminded of the early 1970s science fiction movie with Charlton Heston called The Omega Man, when he's driving around Los Angeles, and apparently they had to film that on the weekend. And of course, we're just looking at images, but we have multiple accounts of these ghost cities in China. And it's interesting because this phenomena is not just confined to China. We go back to our five eras theory, and we have to wonder, is it possible that someone could be setting conditions for another sort of reset? Are they looking to continue to change what we have on recorded history? Is this one of the first indicators with these ghost cities or these planned cities that they could be doing something to serve this end of continuing to confuse what our awareness is of our true history and our own identity? Or so let's go to our friends at Encyclopedia Britannica to give us an account of one of the so-called planned cities in Turkmenistan, the national capital no less, Ashgabat. Ashgabat, formerly Ashgabad, and many other names. From a period of 1919 to 1927, it was known as Poltoratsk. Poltoratsk, city and capital of Turkmenistan. It lies in an oasis at the northern foot of the Kopet Dag, Turkmen Kopet Dag range, and on the edge of the Karakum Garagum Desert, about 19 miles, 30 kilometers from the Iranian frontier. So the capital's not that far from the border. Intriguing. It was founded in 1881 as a Russian military fort and took the name of the nearby Turkmen settlement of Ashgabat. It became the administrative center of the Trans-Caspian Oblast province, and because of its position on the caravan routes and on the Trans-Caspian Railway, attracted a population that numbered more than 45,000 by 1911. If you found it, they will come. After the Russian Revolution, the city soon was renamed Poltoretsk after a local revolutionary. And anyone, feel free to correct my pronunciation. From 1924 to 1990, it was the capital of Turkmenistan, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. In 1927, it reverted to its original name, Ashgabat. One of the most violent earthquakes ever registered in the region virtually destroyed the city in October 1948. It was rebuilt on the same regular plan. So, again, we have this interesting city with this account that we're all too familiar with. What are the odds? A chronic water shortage was alleviated considerably when the Karakum Canal reached the city in 1962. In 1992, the government of newly independent Turkmenistan officially adopted the Turkmen version of the city's name, Ashgabat. Ashgabat is now an administrative, industrial, transportation, and cultural center. The city has glassworks, carpet weaving, and cotton mills, and metalworking shops. Its spectacular natural setting also made it a center for the filmmaking industry. There are several institutions of higher education, including Turkmen A.M. Gorky State University, 1950, and Polytechnic, Agricultural, and Medical Institutes. The Turkmen Academy of Sciences, founded in 1951, oh, they just can't resist, includes the unique Institute of Deserts. Wouldn't mind studying there. I wonder what that would be like. Other amenities include an opera house and theaters, as well as several museums. Population as of 2007 estimated to be 750,000, give or take. Very intriguing. Let's take a look at Ashgabat. Looking at Ashgabat, we see the beautiful presidential palace. I believe that's what this structure is. Although, in the interest of full disclosure with you viewers, there is a lot of conflicting accounts about Ashgabat, and that's the reason why I stuck with just the Encyclopedia Britannica. Any sort of media entry or traveler's entry, and they classify the city as strange, they classify it as a closed, oppressive regime, and those may be true facts, or it could be something else entirely different. So we're just going to look at the city based on the small account that we got from Encyclopedia Britannica and take it at face value. And what we see are some very beautiful and well-developed buildings. We're told that this is all white marble, and I don't see any reason to doubt that, although I have not been there, and if anyone has actually been there, please let us know in the comments. But based on the accounts that you do read from some reporters and travelers, all of this is white marble as far as the eye can see. It's very beautiful and it's very impressive. And it shows that a modern city can be constructed with artistic inspiration. It is certain to say that a lot of what we're looking at surpasses in beauty the so-called brutalist or even the contemporary quote-unquote postmodern architecture or interior design that we're subjected to, especially in our modern hotels across the United States. I haven't stayed at modern hotels in other nations, so I can't speak for them, but I can say that my hotel experiences in the United States have been lacking. It's one of the main reasons why I prefer bed and breakfast. But just look at this beauty. The visual beauty is very striking. This looks like a city that, even if you are in a desert, you're not going to feel like you're in a desert. They've done a very good job of giving it that oasis feel, and yet there's so much beauty and brightness everywhere you look, along with some very creative artistic designs. Look at some of these buildings and the layout of these parks. Geometric designs. It's almost as though it's advanced in a way that we can't even begin to imagine. Looks like you got a little pyramid over there or a built-up building. And just some of the other building designs. We're not seeing our usual square block designs. I mean, we are in places. Yet it looks like they put a little bit more effort into making this more of a beautiful city aesthetically. Why is that? And why do we not see that in our modern cities across the so-called Western world? It's very strange. And again, this simply increases the number of questions that we would have about this sort of city. Now, this is not labeled or listed as a ghost city like we just looked at in China, but this is in the same continent, albeit further to the west in Turkmenistan, a former Soviet Socialist Republic until the collapse of the Soviet Union. Look at this. And I can look up the name and the function of this, but what is its real intention and purpose? Is this just a decorative building? Or does this have some other purpose? And I've looked at it in some of the media entries, and I'm not sure if I'm even going to buy what they're trying to sell by saying that this is just merely a ceremonial building where people will get married at. Does this have some other purpose? Could it have some other purpose potentially in the future? What do you all think? Let me know in the comments. It's beautiful. I especially like the golden sphere in the middle. I mean, is this just as it appears? This is just some unique building that was just built out there to gain and garner attention? It does have artistic beauty to it. And there is some variance in the structure. And then look at these structures. Now, we could argue that the one on the right has, some of those lovely right angles to it. But still, it looks as though at least they're trying to bring out some unique buildings. What's really the explanation behind this? And what are they really attempting to achieve here? The other interesting thing is a city like this in Central Asia with this kind of beauty. And I can recall the last time that I was in the Middle East, and it wasn't that long ago. It was the late 2000s, early 2010s I was in the Middle East. And I certainly don't recall seeing this kind of beauty. There was definitely some ancient structures that were around and a lot of ruins, but not a modern, beautiful city like this. What is really going on with Ashgabat? And how does it fit in with So now we go to take a look at Astana, Expo City 2017, Astana, Kazakhstan, from our friends at World Construction Network. Expo City? Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill Architecture will design Astana Expo City 2017 in preparation for an international expo being held in Astana, Kazakhstan in 2017. Nothing suspicious here. What other gold nuggets do we have in this article? Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill Architecture will design the Expo City, yes, in preparation for an international expo being held in Astana, Kazakhstan in 2017. The architects were selected after an international design competition. Does this sound familiar? Astana Expo City will be located south of Bayturek Tower and east of Nazarbayev University. The expo will run for 3 months, starting from 10 June 2017. I wonder if they had 40, 50 million people attend. Future energy will be the theme for the expo, which will focus on discovering innovative developments for the energy sector, as well as promoting alternative energy sources and cleaner modes of transportation. The Expo City will be developed in 2 phases, with Phase 1 scheduled for completion in December 2016. What, they're not just going to throw it up in a couple months? Immense detail. Well, what do we got for design details? The most significant feature of the Expo City will be Kazakhstan's sphere-shaped pavilion, which will be spread across 24,000 meters squared in the middle of the city. Featuring a convertible outer layer, the pavilion is designed to control the entry of light and simultaneously reduce heat loss. The buildings will highlight the salient features of its site and culture and include sustainable characteristics. Different buildings have been designed to reduce energy use, harvest additional energy, and improve comfort levels. The energy output of each building will be managed by means of multiple integrated systems. High-performance glazing will be featured in the buildings to capture more solar heat during the winter and provide shade during the summer. The temperature within the buildings will be controlled by modulations, while energy piles will decrease the site's energy demand. Interesting. What else have they got to tell us? Phases of the Astana Expo City. The first phase of the project, named the Expo Mode, will cover the design and construction related to the Expo. The buildings constructed during this phase will include Central Kazakhstan corporate and international pavilions, as well as hotels and retail and performance areas. So again, this reads just like a classic World's Fair. To attract international companies and entrepreneurs, Expo-related infrastructure will be converted into an additional 700 residential units, as well as office, hotels, local markets, civic and educational facilities. Master plan details. The master plan for the Expo City is based on weather conditions, cultural context, and land accessibility related to the project's location. The covered city concept will connect important landmarks, including Nazarbayev University, the train station, and the Expo buildings. It has been designed to be pedestrian friendly and accessible throughout the year. It sounds just like Chicago World's Fair, doesn't it? A public park will also be part of the Expo City, which will be connected to a larger park system. The master plan includes the construction of a smart energy grid. Oh, there's that word again, smart. An integrated waste management system and interseasonal underground and thermal energy storage areas. It has been designed to reduce total energy demand, water use, and waste targets. They really emphasize that. All right, let's take a look at Astana and see what this expo provided this city. So it's the same old story again. We have an expo, we have a World's Fair, we have architectural competitions, and here we see the beautiful city of Astana in Kazakhstan. Just unbelievable beauty everywhere you look, and you actually see they're attempting different architectural cues. We see some domes, we see some pyramid structures, some unique buildings that are covered in what appears to be gold, although who knows what it is really. Just this view alone is artistically impressive. And what exactly are we looking in between? I'm sure there's some naysayers out there that'll say that the entire building is, or the entire set of constructions, such as this building, are made out of paper mache and that good old stucco. But look at that dome and the tower on that. It's still a beautiful building. Yes, it's a modern building, but you get the feeling that they put some effort into it. I mean, look at the beautiful park that's out in front of it. What exactly is going on with these cities. I mean, we know they're not planned cities, but yet they seem like they're planned cities. And yet, in another respect, they very much are planned cities with what we see with the architecture, and there's something very different about them. Now, is there a reason for us to be concerned about this? This is supposedly a shopping center. Imagine going to a shopping center that looked like that. Now, I don't know if any of these accounts or what I'm reading is correct. So if anyone has been there or if they have better knowledge, please share. Because I've not been to Kazakhstan, Astana, and I don't know if the accounts being related on these buildings are true. But the fact that they had a World Expo there, I mean, doesn't that tell you that it's a beautiful member of the international community and therefore everything that happened there was appropriate? It's just beautiful. And again, you see something unique with this kind of design. At least they're trying something different. Credit has to be given. Now, does it have sort of a Vegas appearance to it? I don't think so. There's something beautiful in what they're attempting. See the golden sphere up there in that little tower? I mean, what exactly would you call that kind of structure? How would you classify that? I'd be interested to hear what sort of architectural terminology they'd have for this. Well, this is desert image reflective beautification, or something about being in the mountains, or, granted Astana is not nearly in the desert like Ashgabat is, but still, you have that feeling that you're in some remote location. I mean, look at this. You see these different structures and you see these different aspects that they're attempting. Now, could we say that these may be just simple materials that are just configured in a more artistic way? I mean, look at the pyramid. You could easily film any number of science fiction, fantasy, or if we did alternate world, parallel reality movies, or alternate history, which we're not very big on. But look at this. And I think those were the pillars that initial picture was looking out at. And I wonder what those are made out of. What's the construction materials that these buildings were made out of? I mean, we're told that Ashgabat, the city we just looked at, is all white marble. But what exactly is this? It's beautiful. I like the little blue dome. That's definitely a unique touch. Then we've got that little pyramid back there. And then the little tower behind it. I don't know. It almost reminds me of Romulus from Star Trek The Next Generation. The one occasion that we saw it. Very, very beautiful city, though, in the fact that they're trying something different. However, at the same time, we have to wonder what's going on. And this is one of the hotels, and we see through this amazing entryway a view of what we're told is the shopping center, but who knows what the function of all these buildings are. This does have a hotel sort of appearance, but it's beautiful. It certainly exceeds anything that we see that's being built in the United States today, which I'll just use as a comparison. So why is it that Ashgabat and Astana have the beautiful, amazing buildings? Yes, we see the modern construction cues, and there's no doubt that a lot of them fall into these buildings. But it seems as though they're at least trying something different. But why does it seem like they have the license to try something different? Or why is it the plan revolves around constructing something very different? And then, of course, this is the gorgeous pavilion. And here it is in its realized glory. And perhaps this is just a structure that is simply put together and is constructed of very easy to obtain materials and wasn't that difficult. Not denying that. I mean, this is a modern city, but what I'm really questioning is, why do we have this kind of beauty in this city that we don't have in other cities? And of course, we'll have the usual array of reasons, and I certainly invite you to let me know what you think in the comments. Is there something more insidious, though, behind these planned cities, or these ghost cities in China? And of course, they even have an opera house with beautiful columns and the classic pediment, as though we're going back to Rome. And I wonder what this one's made out of. And I'm sure the naysayers will say it's made out of paper mache and balsa wood, and it'll fall down in the first windstorm, and somehow it'll last for a while. Still, I doubt that they would construct something like this. So what's the story behind this opera house? Well, who knows? Still, looking at all these buildings, is there reason for alarm? Is there some purpose behind these certain cities, these planned cities, these ghost cities? How does it factor into what's coming in the future? And last but not least, just in case anybody, especially from the United States, is feeling a little underwhelmed about our buildings, I just thought I'd showcase the Holiday Inn Express that's been provided $43.1 million in a construction loan in the fine city of Nashville. Nashville also has its own version of the Parthenon, which is quite fascinating. And yet, for $43.1 million, this is what you can build. I wonder what it would cost to stay there. Probably $400 a night in king-size bedroom, and you could hear your next-door neighbors breathing at night because, those walls are well constructed and thick. Let me know what you think in the comments. What is really going on with these ghost cities and these planned cities? What's the story behind this, and what are their purposes?
It is wrong. It is wrong! A lifetime of discipline washed away, and in its place...
Consider joining the channel as a member. You can be an explorer and receive early access to content, or you can be a Prime Explorer and have exclusive content that you can't watch on the regular channel. As always, ask questions, explore yourself, and you'll restore the world. Please like, comment, and subscribe.